The Arizona Diamondbacks had a god-awful season in 2021. Outside of Ketel Marte, there wasn't too many consistent offensive bats on this team. Their starting rotation was nothing to speak of as well, as all 5 of their starters in their rotation had a 4+ ERA. And heading into this 2021 season, expectations weren't very high, as many preseason power rankings had them ranked between 20 and 25. So as they were expected to be bad, they weren't expected to be as bad as they were. They ended up finishing the season at 52 and 110, which was their second worst record in franchise history. It was a season to forget, and it just seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Now, heading into 2022, there is a little bit of reason for optimism in Arizona. Offensively, while they're not going to be great, they don't look all that bad. They're going to be heading into 2022 with a healthy Ketel Marte, who, when last healthy, was a legitimate National League MVP candidate back in 2019. Marte is one of those players who is extremely underrated simply because he doesn't play for the best team in the world, but he really could be a sleeper National League MVP candidate. They also have a couple of veterans in David Peralta and Christian Walker who could bounce back after some disappointing seasons last year. On top of that, they also have a couple of other players who played pretty decent last year that could take another leap forward this year. Those players are Dalton Varsho, Josh Rojas, and Pavin Smith. And behind the plate, they have Carson Kelly, who is not going to wow you with his numbers back there behind the plate, but he is overall a pretty decent catcher. So offensively, this team doesn't really have too much all-star caliber players outside of Ketel Marte, and really they're not great offensively, but I would not be surprised to see them have a little bit of a better offensive year this year than last year. Now, when looking at their pitching staff, I have some optimism here. Like I said before, this rotation was not good in 2021. But I believe that all 5 of their starters are better than they played last year. Zach Gallen just a couple years ago was a top prospect in Miami's system, and he's expected to be a very good pitcher in Arizona, and I don't think he's going to be quite as bad as he was in 2021. Madison Bumgarner is clearly past his prime, so he's not going to put up an amazing season, but I don't think he is going to be all that bad. I think he could put together a respectable season with an ERA hovering around 4. Merrell Kelly is one of those players that is not going to put up all-star caliber numbers, but he's going to eat up innings for you, and I could, similar to Madison Bumgarner, see him having an ERA hovering around 4, maybe even below 4. Luke Weaver had a bad season last year, but just a couple years ago in St. Louis, he proved to us that he has very good stuff, and he can put together a string of good starts and be a pretty solid pitcher for Arizona. Same with Caleb Smith, who just a couple years ago was on the Miami Marlins, and he pitched relatively decent. He didn't pitch great last year, but I could see him improving on his 2021 numbers. And one other pitcher we can't forget about in Arizona's rotation is Tyler Gilbert. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gilbert in Arizona's starting rotation to begin the season. I think they might run a 6-man rotation just to get him in there, because last year he proved he was capable of earning the rotation spot. I mean, the guy threw a no-hitter in his first career start. All in all, Gilbert pitched in 40 innings in 2021 where he had a 3.15 ERA. So I also think Gilbert could be in the mix for the back end of Arizona's rotation, and he could be a pretty solid piece. Now, getting over to the bullpen, this is where things get a little tricky. They did sign Mark Melancon this offseason, who had 39 saves last year for San Diego, but outside of him, they don't have too much options. Outside of Melancon, they have players like J.B. Wendelken, Noe Ramirez, Taylor Clark, and J.B. Bukowskis. So these guys are okay. I just don't like the consistency in this bullpen. I don't think they're going to get any consistent production outside of anyone not named Mark Melancon. And as many of you guys know, a bullpen in today's game is very important. One good example here is the Seattle Mariners, who are a relatively decent team who happens to have a very good bullpen. I think Seattle's bullpen could move them from an 80-win team to a 90-win team. So when looking at the Diamondbacks as a whole, I think their offense is okay. It's not great. Their pitching rotation is also the same. It's not great. I think there's going to be improvements from last year, but I think their downfall will be their bullpen. And looking at last year's season, I think they're obviously going to improve off of their 52-win season. But that's not to say they're a great team. I don't think they're going to revert back to their 2017 and 2019 form where they were winning 80 to 90 games and competing for the wildcard spot and even the division. The National League West is loaded with teams like the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Padres who could all legitimately win 90-plus games. And while the Rockies aren't great either, they are a team that can beat a lot of teams that you don't really think they can beat. The Rockies could surprise some people and be okay this year, so I think the Diamondbacks are going to have a hard time with pretty much every team in this division. So like I said, I could see the Diamondbacks improving a pretty good amount this year, but I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to the playoffs. As it stands right now, with the Diamondbacks roster as currently constructed, I'll probably say they're going to win 65 to 70 games. Maybe if everything goes right and falls into place, they could win 75 games or so. But I just really don't see them winning 75 games. Realistically, I think they're probably going to win around 70 or so. So yes, I personally think they're going to improve off of 2021. You really can't get any worse from what they were last year, but I still don't think they're going to be great by any means. You just have to take into account with the division they're playing in and really the lack of firepower on this team. But anyways, that is going to wrap today's video up. Let me know what you guys think of the Diamondbacks down below, where you agree or disagree on any of my thoughts or opinions, if you think they're going to win more or less games than I think. And as always, if you guys do enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to continue to post a lot more videos here as we head closer to the 2022 season. And lastly, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching and continuing to support, and I'll see you next time.